The morning sun had barely risen when Elliot tightened the rope around the sacks of grain stacked on the wooden cart. The cart was old, the wheels uneven, and the horse that pulled it was thin from seasons of hard work. But it was all her family had. Her father, Rowan, stepped out of their mud brick home with a hopeful smile, one Elliot hadn't seen for many months. They needed new clothes before winter buried their valley in snow. They needed oil, salt, and medicine for her mother's persistent cough. So today's journey to the town market meant everything. "Ready, my brave girl?" Rowan asked, brushing his rough thumb over her cheek. Elliot nodded, though her heart squeezed with strange uneasiness she couldn't explain. The forest they had to pass through had always made her nervous. Old stories whisper shadows that move like men, but not quite men, of travelers disappearing without a trace. Still, she climbed onto the cart beside her father. "We will sell everything today," she said with soft determination. "And Mama will smile again." Rohan's eyes softened. "If the world had your heart, child, it would be a kinder place." The cart creaked forward, beginning the long road toward the distant market town. The first hours passed peacefully. The mountain wind was cool, threading through Elia's hair. Birds hopped from branch to branch overhead, and the road curved through an emerald landscape painted by the early light. But everything changed when they reached the edge of the forest. The trees rose higher here, tall, ancient, towering like silent guards. Their trunks were dark, their branches tightly knit, leaving only thin slices of sky visible. The horse snorted, shaking its head. Elia felt her fingers tighten around her shawl. "Don't be scared," her father said gently. "We'll be through the forest before noon." But Elia noticed the way he kept looking over his shoulder, the way his hand hovered near the wooden staff he always carried. They entered the forest. The light dimmed instantly. Leaves rustled with no wind. The wheels crackled over dry branches. Elia leaned close to her father as the road narrowed, swallowed by shadows on both sides. "Papa, do you hear that?" Rohan paused. A faint crunch. Another. More. Footsteps, several sets, closing in. Before Rohan could urge the horse to go faster, figures burst from behind the trees. Robbers. 4 of them. Faces wrapped in dark cloth, blades glinting like jagged teeth. One grabbed the reins, pulling the horse to a violent stop. Another yanked Rohan off the cart. "No!" Elia screamed, jumping back as her father hit the dirt. He struggled, but they pinned him down easily. "Take the girl!" one of them barked. Rohan's voice shattered into a desperate roar. "Run, Elia, run." She didn't think. She leaped off the cart and sprinted into the trees. A hand grabbed at her shawl, but slipped. She stumbled, dirt scraping her knees, but pushed herself up, heart pounding in her throat. Branches tore at her clothes as she ran deeper into the forest. Behind her, she heard her father's muffled shout, then nothing. The silence was worse than any sound. She didn't stop running. By the time Elia collapsed, breathless and trembling, the sun was sinking behind the mountains. Dusk spilled like ink across the forest floor. She curled behind a fallen log, hugging herself. Her palms stung. Her legs shook. Her throat burned from breathing cold air too fast. She didn't know if her father was alive. She didn't know if the robbers were still hunting her. Every sound made her flinch. The flutter of wings, the snap of a twig, the hush of leaves rubbing together. She wrapped her arms tighter around her knees. "Papa, please be safe." Hours passed. The forest grew darker, colder. Fear crawled over her skin like ants. Her tears came silently. Then, crunch. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Too careful. Elia pressed a hand over her mouth. The steps grew closer, stopping just behind the log she had behind. She squeezed her eyes shut until a warm hand gently touched her shoulder. She gasped and turned. A young man stood there, barely older than 20, his dark hair messy from the wind. His eyes were sharp, alert, yet strangely gentle. "Easy," he whispered, raising his free hand. "I'm not here to harm you." Elia backed away, trembling. "Who are you?" "My name is Aiden," he said softly, "and you look like you've been running for your life." His voice was strangely steady, and something in his gaze held sincerity. Yet Elia's suspicion didn't fade. She had fled danger, and now she stood alone with a stranger. Aiden noticed her hesitation. If I meant to hurt you, I wouldn't be talking. He extended a hand, not forcing, offering. Come, he whispered. It's freezing, and you won't survive the night out here. Elia hesitated, then nodded slowly. She didn't trust him, not fully, but she trusted the cold even less. Aiden led her through the trees until a small cottage appeared between the pines. Smoke rising from its chimney, warm light flickering inside. He opened the door for her. You're safe here, he said. Elia stepped inside, still trembling, still watching him carefully. Aiden lit more firewood. Flames bloomed, painting the room gold. Tell me what happened, he murmured. Elia's voice quivered as she spoke of her father, the robbers, the escape. Aiden listened quietly, jaw tightening. When she finished, he handed her a blanket. You should rest. I'll stay awake just in case. Elia hesitated to lie down. She was alone in a cottage with a young stranger. Aiden noticed her fear and kept his distance. Sleep. I won't come near you, he said gently. The fire crackled. Her eyelids grew heavy. Suspicion battled exhaustion, but exhaustion won. And somewhere between flame and fear, Elia drifted into uneasy sleep. Elia awoke to the soft crackling of firewood. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The room was warm, painted in amber light from the dying fire. Her head rested on a folded blanket that smelled faintly of pine and smoke. Then everything returned to her at once. The attack, her father's shouts, the forest, the footsteps, the stranger's hand on her shoulder. Aiden. Her heartbeat quickened. She jerked upright, clutching the blanket around her. Across the room, seated on a chair near the door, Aiden looked up. He had not slept at all. His posture was straight, alert, as if guarding the cottage the entire night. You're awake, he said softly. Elia pressed her back against the wall, instinctively making distance. Why didn't you sleep? He offered a faint smile. Someone had to keep watch. Forest nights are not kind. She swallowed, unsure how to respond. Outside, faint light slipped through the window. Morning had arrived. Aiden stood slowly, careful not to startle her. There's bread and berries on the table. You should eat something. Elia didn't move. Trusting a stranger wasn't something she could do in a single night. Aiden understood without needing her to speak. If it helps, he walked to the opposite corner of the cottage and sat down again. I'll stay right here while you eat. Won't move. The sincerity in his voice eased something inside her chest, but only slightly. Elia approached the table. The bread was simple, the berries fresh. Her hands trembled as she took a bite. Aiden watched quietly, not with hunger or suspicion, but with concern, like someone who had known fear himself. After a moment, he spoke. We'll find your father. The bread lodged in her throat. What if he's... Don't. Aiden's voice remained steady. Fear tells us the worst. But we don't surrender to fear. Not today. Elia lowered her gaze. You don't even know me. Why would you help? Aiden's jaw tightened for a moment. Because once someone helped me when no one else would. There was weight behind those words. A story he didn't speak. A memory that shadowed his eyes. Elia noticed it. She wanted to ask, but the question died on her tongue. After she finished eating, she wrapped her shawl tightly around herself. Aiden stood. Come. The sooner we get you back on the road, the better. Elia stiffened. No, not back to the forest. We'll take a safer path, he said. There's an old trade road that runs along the river. It's longer, but safer than walking through the trees again. He packed a small satchel, bread, cloth, a waterskin, and slung it across his shoulder. Then he opened the door. A gust of icy morning air rushed in. You first, he said gently. Elia stepped outside, still cautious, but strange comfort followed her steps. The forest in the daylight was less terrifying, though the shadows were still long, the air still cold enough to sting her cheeks. Aiden walked beside her, keeping enough distance to not frighten her. Birds chirped overhead. Frost glimmered on the leaves. The forest looked peaceful, but she knew peace was an illusion. Somewhere not far, the robbers roamed. And her father Her chest ached just thinking of him. Aiden noticed her silence. "Tell me something," he said quietly. "What's your name?" "Elia." "Elia," he repeated, as if memorizing it. "A beautiful name." She didn't answer. They walked for a while before he spoke again. "Do you remember which direction your cart was heading before the attack?" "Yes. The road turns left after the old maple tree." Aiden nodded. "Good. Then we'll follow the river road, circle back to the main path, and with luck, find the cart or signs of your father." Elia's breath caught at the mention of finding him. What if the robbers took him far away? "Then we search farther," Aiden said simply. "No one disappears without a trace." His certainty startled her. Why was he being so devoted, so determined? He owed her nothing, yet he acted as though it was his responsibility. The curiosity gnawed at her. "Aiden," she finally said, "why do you live alone in a cottage this deep in the forest?" Aiden's step slowed. His expression changed, not anger, but a heaviness she hadn't seen before. "Because," he said quietly, "sometimes the world pushes people into places they never meant to go." Elia waited for more, but he didn't continue. Hours passed as they walked through the trees. The river road was uneven but safer. The morning sun warmed them slightly, though Elia's fear never fully loosened its grip. Every time a branch snapped, she flinched. Every rustle made her turn sharply. Aiden stayed alert, scanning the surroundings like someone used to danger. Around midday, Aiden stopped suddenly and raised a hand. Elia froze. "What is it?" she whispered. Aiden listened, eyes narrowing. Voices, faint but getting closer. Elia's heart thundered. "Robbers!" Aiden grabbed her arm lightly, not roughly, and pulled her behind a large boulder. "Stay quiet," he breathed. They crouched low. The voices moved closer. Laughing, boasting. Elia recognized one of them. Her stomach dropped. One of the men who had dragged her father off the cart. The robbers were walking along the upper ridge, unaware of their presence below. Aiden watched them with eyes sharp as a hawk's, analyzing every detail. Their numbers, their weapons, their direction. Elia's breathing shook. Panic climbed her throat. What if they looked down? What if they followed the river and found them? Aiden leaned close, whispering in her ear, "They won't see us." His voice was calm, steady, so steady it slowed the storm inside her chest. The robbers grew distant. Their laughter faded. Only then did Aiden release the breath he had been holding. "Come," he said quietly. "We keep moving." Elia stared at him for a moment. If he hadn't pulled her aside, they would have been caught, no doubt. Aiden wasn't just kind. He was capable. And suddenly, there was something mysterious about him that both comforted and unsettled her. By late afternoon, the forest thinned, and the dirt road curved toward an open plain. Far ahead, beyond the trees, a glimpse of the main road appeared. Aiden pointed. "That's where I leave you." Elia stopped walking. You're not coming?" Aiden shook his head softly. "My place is here. Yours is with your family. I'll get you to the road. After that, you'll find villagers who can help you reach your home." Elia's chest tightened unexpectedly. She didn't trust him fully, but she had depended on him. And soon he would be gone. The open plain looked strangely vast after the suffocating darkness of the forest. The wind carried the scent of grass instead of pine, and the horizon stretched into soft golden hills. But Elia barely noticed the beauty. Her heart pounded with dread. Her father could be anywhere. Aiden walked beside her until they reached the fork where the river road bowed into the main path. "There," he slowed. "This is where you'll find help," he said. Elia swallowed hard. "And what about you?" Aiden looked toward the forest, eyes shadowed by something she could not yet understand. "I don't go beyond this point." "Why?" she blurted out before she could stop herself. "Are you hiding from someone?" His jaw tensed. A flicker of pain crossed his eyes, gone in a heartbeat. "That doesn't matter," he murmured. But it did matter. People did not live alone in a hidden forest cottage for no reason. People did not refuse to step onto a main road unless they cared a past that chained them to shadows. Elia should have walked away. She should have thanked him and run to look for help, for a father, for her mother waiting at home. But something inside her Fear, gratitude, or perhaps something deeper held her still. "What if something happens?" she whispered. "What if I can't find anyone? What if the robbers come back?" Aiden looked down at her. There was a softness in his eyes she hadn't noticed before, something almost protective, almost afraid to let her go. "You'll be safe. I promise." "But you promised we'd find my father," she said, voice trembling. Aiden exhaled slowly. "Elia, I can't walk that road. Not anymore." Her suspicion flared again. "What is stopping you?" He didn't answer. Not for a long time. She started to walk away, hurt rising in her chest, but then his voice came, low and steady behind her. "I killed a man on that road." Elia froze. A cold wave passed over her skin. She turned slowly, heart thudding. What do you mean?" Aiden stared at his own hands, as if the memory stained them still. "A year ago, a merchant. He tried to attack someone I was protecting. I didn't mean to kill him, but anger blinds even the good. The villagers believed his sons. They said I attacked without reason. So I ran. I hid here." Elia's breath trembled. She took a step back. Aiden did not move. "I understand if you fear me now," he said quietly. "I've lived with that fear myself." "But you saved me," she whispered. "I'm not a monster, Elia, but the world decided I am." Silence stretched between them, heavy as stone. Fear whispered at her ear, reminding her she was alone with a young man who had confessed to killing someone. But something else whispered too. He could have abandoned her. He could have hurt her. He didn't. Instead, he gave her warmth, shelter, safety. A man who wanted to harm would not look this guilty. Elia stepped a little closer, not enough to trust fully, but enough to speak without trembling. "Did you kill him because you had to or because you wanted to?" Aiden's head snapped up. His voice broke when he answered, "Because I had no choice." And Elia believed him. Still, danger circled her heart. Anything could still be a lie. Anyone could hide their real face. Elia wrapped her arms around herself. "I need to find my father. I can't do alone." Aiden looked away. "I should not walk where people can see me. But the robbers might still be near. You know the forest more than anyone," she said desperately. "If I go alone, they'll catch me. They're stronger. They're cruel. Her voice cracked, and she pressed a hand to her mouth. Aiden closed his eyes, torn between his own fear and hers. "Elia," he whispered, "if I go with you and someone recognizes me, you'll be in danger too. Do you understand? If they think you're helping a fugitive, they'll hurt you, or your family." Elia hadn't thought of that. Her chest tightened painfully. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Aiden stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. "I can't walk the main road," he said, "but I can walk the forest path parallel to it." "What do you mean?" "I'll follow you from a distance, close enough to protect you, far enough that no one sees us together." Elia stared at him. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the companionship she had hoped for, but it was something. And something was better than being completely alone. "Will you truly stay near me?" she whispered. He nodded. "Until you're safe." Warm relief washed through her. Aiden motioned the path. "Go on. Walk down the road. The village is half a mile ahead." Elia hesitated. She didn't want to leave him. Not because she trusted him fully, but because without him, the world felt bigger, darker, hungrier. Aiden seemed to read her thoughts. "You won't see me," he said quietly, "but I'll be there." Elia turned and began walking. The breeze brushed her face. The road stretched ahead. Her heart hammered in her chest. She kept glancing at the trees to her left, but Aiden was nowhere to be seen. Yet somehow she felt him. A presence not of threat, but of silent protection. It was strange. To trust someone she didn't know. To fear someone and still want them near. To walk a path alone, knowing she wasn't truly alone. The main road grew clearer. A wagon creaked in the distance. A woman carrying a basket walked ahead. Villagers. Hope flickered inside her. She glanced once more toward the forest, and though she saw no one, she whispered softly, "Thank you, Aiden." Unseen among the shadows, Aiden closed his eyes, hearing the words. Elia's footsteps echoed softly along the dirt road as she moved toward the nearby village. The sun had fully risen now, warming the chilled morning air. Yet a cold knot remained lodged in her stomach. The closer she came to people, to safety, the more her thoughts tangled around her father. Was he alive? Hurt? Taken far away? Every fear clawed at her heart. She kept glancing sideways toward the dense forest where Aiden had disappeared. She couldn't see him, only shifting leaves and thick shadows, but she felt something like the faint presence of a guardian walking beside her, silent and unseen. She didn't know if it was hope or foolishness. The village came into view, small stone houses, smoke curling from chimneys, children chasing a dog, a cart rolling slowly down the lane. Life moved gently here, untouched by the horrors of the forest. As Elia stepped onto the worn path between the houses, she paused, her eyes darting once more to the trees. "Aiden, are you really there?" She whispered in her mind, but no answer came. "Girl, are you lost?" Elia jumped. A middle-aged woman carrying a basket of apples had stopped nearby, studying her dusty clothes, torn shawl, and exhausted eyes. Elia forced her voice steady. "My father, we were attacked on the road. Robbers took him. Please, can you help?" The woman's face softened with shock. "Dear child, come with me. We'll get you water and someone who can fetch the constable." Constable. The word tightened Elia's chest. If the constable came, and if Aiden came near, would they arrest him? Would they blame him? Would they hurt him? Her steps faltered. "Come now." The woman urged kindly, guiding her toward a small stone house. Elia followed inside. The home was warm, smelling of stew and herbs. The woman fetched her water and a blanket. "You rest," she said gently. "My husband will bring the constable." "No, no, please," Elia blurted. The woman blinked. "Child, the constable can find your father. Why are you—" I just need to think," Elia whispered, gripping the blanket tightly. It wasn't that she didn't want help. She needed it desperately. Her father did, too. But Aiden, wherever he hid among the trees, had risked so much for her. He had confessed to something that could destroy him. And now she found herself in a place where one wrong word could put chains around him forever. Fear tangled with gratitude until she didn't know which was which anymore. Outside, the woman's husband hurried toward the village center. Elia watched through the window as he spoke to a few men, then pointed toward the road. The men looked grim, determined. The constable wouldn't be far behind. Elia set down a cup of water and rushed outside. "Where are you going?" the woman called. Elia didn't answer. She needed air, needed to think, needed to feel the forest at her side, to know Aiden was still there. She walked toward the edge of the village, where the main road curved into view. Her breath came fast. She scanned the tree line. Nothing. She stepped closer. Still nothing. And then a leaf fell. Another rustled. A faint shift of shadow. Her pulse quickened. Aiden. Invisible to everyone else, but not to her heart. She didn't dare call his name. Instead, she whispered under her breath, so low only the forest could hear. "They're going to look for my father. Aiden, if they see you." A soft crack of a twig answered. Not loud, not close, but enough to let her know he heard. She lowered her gaze. "Aiden, please stay hidden." Minutes later, the constable arrived, a tall man with a thick coat and stern eyes. 2 villagers trailed behind him with spears. "Where was the attack?" he asked. Elia led them toward the road, voice trembling as she described the forest path, the robbers, the moment they dragged her father away. Each detail cut like a blade. The constable listened with grim focus. "Sounds like the same group that's been troubling travelers for weeks," he muttered. "We'll search the area." Elia's heart leaped with hope. "You'll find him?" "We'll do what we can, child." As they walked, Elia kept glancing at the forest, terrified that Aiden would step too close, say the wrong thing, or be mistaken for one of the robbers. But Aiden was nowhere to be seen. Only the trees, swaying gently in the wind. They reached the area where the attack had happened. Broken branches, a few scattered grains from the torn sacks, deep footprints in the soil. Elia's chest tightened. "Papa?" The constable knelt, examining the prints. 3 men dragged someone this way, he said, and another pair walked along the ridge. Can you follow them? Elia pleaded. He nodded. We'll try. As the constable and villagers advanced deeper into forest, Elia hesitated. She wanted to follow, but fear squeezed her heart. If Aiden was close, if the constable saw him, if they blamed him for the attack. Elia lingered near the edge of the trees, torn apart inside. And then, a whisper of movement, a breath of cold air at her side. Elia turned sharply. Aiden stood half-hidden behind a thick pine trunk, barely visible in the shifting shadows. For the first time, she noticed something she had missed before, exhaustion lining his face, worry darkening his eyes. He wasn't just hiding from the world. He was drowning in it. Elia, he whispered, barely audible. They're searching the wrong direction. Her heartbeat spiked. What do you mean? I followed the robbers last night, quietly, from a distance. His voice was low, urgent. They moved east, not west. They're heading toward the old ruins. Her breath hitched. Aiden, why didn't you tell them? He gestured toward the constable. If I approach them, they'll arrest me before I say a word. Elia looked between Aiden's shadowed figure and the constable disappearing into the wrong path. The choice tore at her chest like claws. Tell them what Aiden knew, but risk exposing him. Or say nothing, and her father might be lost forever. Aiden stepped closer, not enough to be seen, but enough for his voice to reach her clearly. Elia, he whispered, if you go with them, your father may never return. Her lips trembled. What do I do? Tell me. His eyes softened with a kind of quiet desperation. Come with me, he said. I can take you to where the robbers really went. Elia's breath stopped. Go with Aiden, a wanted man, a stranger, into deep forest again, or stay with the constable, who was walking in the wrong direction. She closed her eyes, heart twisting painfully. A choice with no easy road, a choice that would change everything. Elia's breath trembled in her chest as she stood between two worlds, the lawful safety of the constable's search party disappearing into the western forest, and the shadowed figure of Aiden, half hidden behind the pines, urging her toward a direction no one else believed. Her father's life hung somewhere in between. Aiden stepped forward, the faint crunch of leaves under his boots barely audible. Elia, choose quickly. The robbers won't stay in one place. Every second we stand here, they move farther. Her pulse thundered. Why should I trust you? Aiden swallowed, pain flickering in his eyes. You shouldn't. Not easily. But everything I've done since I found you, everything, was to keep you alive. Let me help you find him. Please. Elia looked toward the constable. Men with weapons, men who could defend her, men who knew the forest far better than she did. Then she looked at Aiden. Someone with no badge, no home, no trust in the world, but someone who had protected her without hesitation. Her voice cracked. If I choose your path, I choose someone the world says is dangerous. Aiden's voice dropped to a whisper. And if you choose theirs, you choose a road that leads nowhere. The words struck deep. Elia closed her eyes. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Courage, my brave girl, is not the absence of fear. It's choosing what you know in your heart is right. She opened her eyes again, breath shivering in the cold air. I'm coming with you. Relief and worry collided in Aiden's expression. Stay close. And no matter what you see, do not run ahead of me. Elia nodded, with one last glance at the constable. Already too far to hear her. They slipped into the eastern forest. The trees grew denser than before, the branches twisting like claws overhead. Aiden moved silently, every step measured. Elia followed, tried to mimic his careful footing, but her heart raced with each sound. How did you follow them last night? She whispered. I know these woods, Aiden murmured. I know where people hide when they don't want to be found. And robbers choose shadows that swallow sound. It made sense, and yet it didn't. There was something more behind his words, a depth she hadn't touched yet. How do you know so much about hiding? Aiden didn't answer. Silence wrapped around them like another layer of the forest. After a long stretch of walking, they reached a ridge overlooking a narrow valley. In the distance, Old stone ruins rose between the trees. Broken towers, half-collapsed walls, remnants of a fortress swallowed by time. Elia's breath hitched. The old fortress. Papa used to tell me stories about it. That's where they went, Aiden whispered. How can you be sure? Aiden pointed to ground. Footprints. Deep, heavy, drag marks, boot imprints. Many. Elia's stomach twisted. They had your father with them, Aiden said softly. Elia gripped her shawl, fighting tears. Is he still alive? Aiden turned to face her. As long as they're dragging him, instead of leaving him behind, he's alive. The forest seemed to freeze around those words. Alive. Her father was alive. She inhaled sharply, courage rising like a warm flame inside her chest. What now? She whispered. Aiden studied the ruins. There are too many for us to fight. Her heart dropped. Then how do we save him? Aiden stepped closer, lowering his voice. Elia, listen very carefully. I need you to be brave. I am, she whispered back, though her legs trembled. There might be a way, Aiden continued. A hidden back passage in the ruins, used long ago by soldiers. I don't know if it's still open, but if it is, I can slip inside unseen. Find your father. Untie him. Elia stared at him, horror and hope crashing together. Aiden, if they catch you. Aiden smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time my life hung by a thread. That's not funny, she snapped through her fear. It wasn't meant to be. Aiden's tone softened. But if we wait for the constable, they'll be long gone. This is our only chance. Elia looked at the ruins. Broken stones, shadows that seemed alive, a danger she could feel in her bones. Her father was in there. Her father needed saving. And the only person willing to help was a fugitive. She nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Aiden hesitated, as if he hated the answer. Stay hidden, behind that ridge. He pointed to a thick cluster of bushes and rocks. No matter what happens inside, you do not come out. Elia's throat tightened. But I want to help. Staying alive is helping, Aiden said firmly. If they see you, they'll use you against your father. Or kill you. The words chilled her blood. But Aiden, what about you? His smile was tired, but gentle. I'm used to walking into danger. She felt her heart twist painfully. Why? Why risk everything for us? Aiden looked away, the wind brushing his hair. When he spoke again, his voice held a quiet truth that shook her. Because once, someone risked everything for me, and I wasn't able to save them. Elias stared at him. A wound lived behind that sentence. A deep one he carried alone. Before she could ask, Aiden turned toward the ruins. Elia, he said, not looking back, whatever noise you hear, whatever happens, do not follow me. You must promise. Elia's eyes burned. I promise. Aiden nodded once. Then he moved toward the ruins, swallowed by shadows, disappearing between broken pillars and fallen stones. Elia crouched behind the ridge, fingers clutching the cold earth, her heart pounding so fiercely she feared the trees themselves could hear it. Minutes crawled. Wind whispered. A raven screeched somewhere above. Then, a distant shout. Another. Footsteps pounding. A clash of steel on stone. Elia's heart nearly stopped. Aiden, she breathed. More voices. Angrier. Closer. Fear clawed its way up her throat. She curled deeper behind the rocks, trembling violently. And just when she thought her heart could break from terror, a single, chilling scream echoed from inside the ruins. A man's scream, cut suddenly violently short. Elia pressed her hands over her mouth. Something terrible was happening inside, and Aiden was alone in the dark with them. Dawn broke slowly over the treetops, painting the early sky with pale streaks of gold and lavender. The forest still held its breath, silent, cold, wrapped in a thin layer of mist that drifted to the trunks like wandering spirits. Amara sat near the dying fire, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She hadn't slept, not really. Her mind had been turning in circles all night. Fear for her father, fear of being alone, and fear whether she could really trust Amir. The young man emerged from his small cottage, stretching his arms with a groggy yawn. His hair, now touched by sunlight, looked less messy and more like the unkempt curls of someone too busy surviving to care about appearances. He offered her a faint smile. "You didn't sleep," he said softly. Amara didn't answer. Her eyes drifted toward the forest path. "We need to go back," she said. "My father, he might still be alive." Samir nodded. "We'll leave right after breakfast. You need strength before you face anything else." She didn't feel hungry, but she knew he was right. Within minutes, he had warmed a small pot of porridge over the embers. Amara ate in silence, her thoughts heavy, her heart pounding with every passing moment. The sunlight brightened, and the mist began to lift, revealing the path that would lead them back to the world she had been torn away from. When they stepped outside, the cold morning wind brushed against their faces. Samir handed her a wool shawl. "You'll need this," he said. "Forest mornings are harsher than they look." Amara hesitated. "I can't take this. It's yours." "It's an extra, and you'll return it when we reach the road," he replied, gently insisting. Reluctantly, she took it. They began walking, side by side, but with a careful distance between them. The forest was unsettlingly quiet, as though it knew something was wrong. Fallen leaves crackled under their feet. Birds chirped somewhere far away, but the melody sounded weak, almost shy. Amara finally spoke. "You said you live here alone. Why?" Samir looked ahead, eyes tracing the path. "Because this forest is the only place that doesn't judge me." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "My village, they don't trust me." He paused. "Not after what happened years ago." Curiosity tugged at her. "What happened?" He inhaled deeply. "My brother went missing. We used to explore the forest together. One day he ran ahead, and I never saw him again. There were no tracks, no sign of anything, just silence. The villagers said I abandoned him. Some even whispered that I caused it." A shadow passed over his face, but he kept walking. "That's why you help strangers?" she asked softly. "I help because no one helped me," he said. "And because I know what it feels like to lose someone." Amara looked at him with new understanding. The suspicion she felt last night eased slightly, replaced by something gentler, perhaps empathy. But fear still lingered in her heart. Not of Samir, but of what awaited her on the other side of the forest. As they walked deeper, the trees became denser, the air colder, the path narrowed. Amara clutched the shawl tighter around her. Every snap of a twig made her tense. Every rustle of leaves whispered reminders of the attack. "We're close," Samir said after an hour. "Another 20 minutes and we'll reach the main road." But at that moment, something stirred in the shadows. A figure, then another. Samir's hand instinctively moved in front of Amara, shielding her. 3 men stepped out from behind the trees. Rough clothes, thick boots, and eyes sharp with hunger and greed. Amara recognized them instantly. The robbers. Her heart dropped. Well, one sneered, stepping forward. "Looks like the little bird found a nest for the night." Another laughed, "And she brought a friend." Samir whispered, "Stay behind me." Amara's breath hitched. The memory of her father being dragged away burned painfully in her chest. "We're just passing through," Samir said calmly. "Let us leave." The leader tilted his head. "Not a chance. We've been looking for her. The old man gave us trouble. Shame if she causes the same." Amara's blood froze. What did you do to my father?" she demanded, voice trembling. The leader smirked. "He's alive for now. Depends how useful he stays." Tears stung her eyes. Samir's jaw clenched. "Let her go," Samir said, tone low and dangerous. One robber laughed. "Or what? You'll fight us with what? A stick?" But before they could move closer, Samir stepped slightly aside, and Amara gasped. Hidden near the base of a tree, half buried under leaves, was a long wooden staff carved with markings. Samir reached for it swiftly, gripping it with a confidence that startled her. He wasn't just a wanderer. He knew how to defend himself. The robbers paused, evaluating him again. Samir raised the staff. "This is your last warning." The leader scoffed. "Get him." Everything erupted at once. 2 robbers lunged toward Samir. He swung the staff with precision, striking one in the ribs, sending him stumbling into the bushes. The other ducked and tried grabbing him from behind, but Samir twisted, knocking him off balance. "Run, Amara!" he shouted, but she couldn't. Not again. Not while her father's fate hung in the balance. The leader charged toward her, but Samir was faster. He blocked the man's arm and struck him across the shoulder. The robber yelled in pain. Amara backed away, heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. "You want her?" Samir growled, breath ragged. "You go through me." The robbers hesitated now, realizing this wasn't the frightened forest boy they expected. But they weren't finished. "We'll find you again," the leader spat, "and we'll finish what we started." They fled into the forest shadows. Samir lowered the staff, panting. Amara rushed to him. "Are you hurt?" "No," he said, though his arm trembled slightly. "But we need to reach the road. Now!" They continued walking, faster this time. Within minutes, the trees thinned, light brightened. Voices of distant traders drifted through the air. They had made it. The road. Civilization. Safety for now. Amara looked at Samir, her eyes full of relief, gratitude, and something unexplainable. "You saved my life," she whispered. Samir simply nodded. "Let's get you home." But deep inside, both of them knew the danger was far from over. The midday sun stretched across the hills, warm and bright, washing away the cold fear of the forest, but not the memories of it. As Amara and Samir stepped onto the open road, she felt her knees weaken, as if her body finally understood that she was safe, at least a moment. Travelers passed by, carts loaded with hay, shepherds herding goats, women carrying baskets of vegetables. Life moved normally here, unaware of the storm she had escaped. Samir glanced at her. "This road will take you straight to your village," he said quietly. "Someone will help us get a cart." "Us." The words softened something inside her. They walked along the roadside until they spotted an elderly man repairing a wheel beside his ox cart. Samir approached him respectfully. "Sir, we need help reaching the next village," Samir explained. The girl was separated from her father. The man looked at Amara, dust-streaked face, tired eyes, bruised arms. Something in her appearance made him nod without questioning. "You can ride with me," he said kindly. "The ox is slow but steady." As they settled in the back of the cart, Amara turned to Samir. "Will you come all the way with me?" Samir hesitated. "If you want me to." I do," she confessed. The cart creaked as it began moving. Fields stretched on both sides, golden wheat swaying gently, the breeze whispering through them. The open sky felt unreal after being trapped beneath the forest canopy for so long. But the peace didn't calm her heart. Every few minutes, Amara glanced at the road ahead, terrified she might find her father wounded or worse. Samir noticed her trembling. "He's alive," Samir assured her. "The robbers needed him. They won't hurt him until they think they've gotten everything they want." Amara swallowed. "I hope you're right." The journey took nearly 2 hours. Her anxiety grew with every passing moment. Finally, the fields gave way to familiar houses, stone walls, and dusty paths. Children played by the well. Women washed clothes. The world she knew, simple, small, warm, came back into view. "We're here," Samir said gently. But Amara's heart thundered violently. Her home was just beyond the bend. As the cart stopped, she jumped down before it even settled. She ran, bare feet kicking up dust, toward the small wooden house where she had lived her entire life. "Father!" she cried, pushing the door open. The room was empty. Her breath stopped. "Father?" Her voice broke. Samir entered slowly behind her, searched the back room. She rushed there, hand shaking, breath uneven. She pushed open the door. Her father lay on the floor, tired but breathing. "Father!" Her scream echoed from the walls. She fell to her knees, sobbing as she cut the ropes with a knife hanging by the wall. Her father opened his eyes weakly. "Amara, my child." She threw her arms around him, crying into his chest. "I thought I lost you. I thought—" "Hush!" he whispered. stroking her hair shakily. "You are safe. That is all that matters." Samir stood silently by the doorway, watching a reunion that felt sacred, private, something he'd longed for but never received after his brother vanished. A part of him ached, but another part felt peaceful, witnessing love that survived terror. Her father looked up, noticing Samir. "You brought her back?" Samir bowed his head respectfully. "She escaped into the forest. I found her." The old man's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, son. You saved my life more than once." Samir smiled faintly. Anyone would have done the same. But Amara knew that wasn't true. When her father was helped into a chair, he explained in a shaky voice what happened after she ran. "They wanted money," he said. "They assumed I had hidden coins from a grain sale. When I had nothing to give, they left, planning to return later. So they'll come back?" Amara whispered, fear tightening her chest again. Samir leaned forward. "Not if we report them. I saw their faces. I know the forest paths. The guards can track them if we leave now." "But father is weak," Amara began. "Go," her father insisted. "You must stop them before they hurt someone else." Reluctantly, she agreed. Samir helped her father lie down, ensuring he was warm and resting safely. Then Amara and Samir stepped outside. The afternoon had grown darker, clouds gathering, wind rising. The world felt on edge again. As they walked toward the village guardhouse, Amara finally asked questions she had carried since dawn. "Samir, will I ever see you again? After this?" He looked surprised. "If you want to." She nodded gently. "I do." The words hung in the air, warm and fragile. Samir smiled softly, the kind that reached his eyes. "Then you will." They reached the guardhouse, explained the attack, and described the robbers. The guards mounted horses and headed toward the forest immediately. Amara felt a weight lift from her as torches flickered into the distance. They were safe now. Truly, night began falling when she and Samir returned to her home. Her father slept peacefully, breathing steadily. Amara exhaled in relief. Samir turned to leave, but she grabbed his hand, firmly, without hesitation. "Don't go tonight," she whispered. "You helped me when I was alone in the dark. Let me be the one to say goodbye properly in the morning." Samir paused, then nodded. They stepped inside, the quiet warmth of the home wrapping around them like a soft blanket. Amara looked at him, not with fear, not with suspicion, but with gratitude and something deeper. For the first time since the nightmare began, she felt safe, not because she had returned home, but because he stayed.